Depression is the end result of failing at bargaining, right? When you start to bargain with yourself, you start to bargain with Allah. If this situation works out, then I'll do this. Oh Allah, if Allah can do this for this situation, then I will be willing to change that. When you fail to achieve the desired result of bargaining, we usually dive straight into the next stage, which is depression. And it's important for us to understand that depression is not a sign of mental illness. All right, I'll state that again. Depression is not a sign of mental illness, right? Rather, it is a natural response to circumstances that are simply beyond our control. That's usually where depression comes from, especially in the context of divorce. You're in a situation, especially if the person is leaving you, right? It's a different situation, not too much, but it's a little different if you are leaving the person. You don't want to be with the person. And so by you leaving the situation, you may feel depressed for, maybe because, you couldn't fix it. You just couldn't get this person to change. All right. So there's still situations that are beyond your control. All right. But it is important to understand that depression is not a sign of mental illness. Rather, it is a natural response to circumstances, situations that are simply beyond our control. We don't have any control over, so we just get depressed. Children do the same thing, right? You ever relocated, right? You're moving to a different state, or you're moving to, like I've moved to a different country, and I could see the depression, on the faces of some of the older children. The younger children, they still don't really understand, they're game for, whatever the moving entails. For the older kids that are a little bit more stable, a little bit more situated, they have their friends, they have their school, they enjoy, their routine. And then you say, hey, we're up and we're moving, and there's nothing that they can do about it. I mean, they can express, their displeasure. They can express, there's dissatisfaction with the move, but they don't really have any control. When you think about, for example, a lot of, as a teacher, we were teaching online last year, for most of last year. And you had a lot of students that were learning via Zoom online. And they were depressed because that's not, their preferred choice of learning. They would much rather be in a learning environment with other children, socially interacting, engaging with other children, but there was nothing that they could do about it. And children were literally depressed. And so you think about us as adults, we kind of run into the same issue, especially when it comes to divorce. All right. The overwhelming sadness that we experience is a very, appropriate response to an overpowering loss, i.e., the marriage. Depression is a natural phase one experiences in preparation to accept a loss, which is the final stage in our journey to healing from grief. The final stage is, learning how to just accept. So right after depression, there's acceptance. You just kind of accept the situation for what it is. But before you get to the acceptance piece, there is the depression, right? And the definition of depression is a persistent sadness or loss of interest, which is a response to a loss of like to a loss, or some of life's struggles and challenges that you don't have any power or control over. Depression is the main cause of disability worldwide. According to the World Health Organization, some of the signs of depression include, but are not restricted to, decreased energy, fatigue, feeling tired all the time, difficulty sleeping, appetite and or weight changes in your appetite. I noticed when we started school in August, children who 2 years ago were very slim came to school, and many of them had put on a lot of weight. Now, that may not necessarily have been from depression. It could have been just sitting at home snacking, eating all day long, and parents trying to placate the feelings of the children under these particular circumstances. So just running out, constantly going shopping, buying a whole bunch of snacks because you're just trying to keep them happy, just trying to keep them, comfortable. And so you might have a lot of children that were kind of snacking, but there were a lot of children 2 years prior to COVID. They were very slim. They came back to school in August. I'm like, man, what happened, man? What were you doing? And there is a strong possibility that some of that had to do with depression. There's a strong possibility that some of that has to do with depression. So appetite and or weight changes, thoughts of death or suicide, right? I just had a sixth grader, young Muslim girl, sixth grader, Egyptian. And she said that I'm ready to die. She says this in class. I'm ready to die. And as a sixth grader, I mean, you have some kids that are a little bit more mature than others, but she's very emotionally mature. She just had a breakdown in class just 2 days ago. Yesterday, not today, yesterday. She had a breakdown in class, and the principal actually had to come to the class, and she said, I keep having all of these anxiety attacks in class. School gives me anxiety. Now, this is a sixth grader, and, the kids are in the class are like, well, you cry like 3-4 times a day. She just starts crying, and I can tell that a lot of that is the residual effects of being at home for the past 2 years of school. And these are the residual effects of it. We thought that children were going to come to school in September, August and September, and, they would be happy to be back in school and all is well. But you got to still think about, even as teachers, we have professional development, and we are concentrating a lot on the social emotional component. Social emotional learning, SEL. And a lot of the, presenters that are coming in and educating us as teachers are concentrating on the social emotional learning piece. Very important. But as adults, we don't have the time or the space to, assess our situation. We got to get up. We got to go to work. A woman could be divorced, tomorrow, tonight. She still got to get up and go to work tomorrow. She might be able to take off a day or two or maybe a week, but at some point, today is the 2nd of December, rent is due, mortgage is due, so as adults, we don't have the luxury of, just kind of sitting back and assessing our pain and, properly taking the steps. We're multitasking, and that's the danger as a parent. We're multitasking. And then on top of that, as Muslims, we still got to maintain our salat. We don't get a day off to not pray, right? We still got to maintain our salat. We still got to maintain our, spiritual regimen, of reading the Quran daily, making dhikr and, whatever else it is you do in your daily regimen. So we don't get time to just a space to just kind of assess our pain, the level and the degree of our pain, and being able to work on that solely. We got to kind of chip away at what's going on over here, what's going on. I know some changes about myself over here. I noticed some changes about myself over here. And you got to kind of just get in where you fit in. And no matter how much, as long as you're multitasking, it's never going to be sufficient. It's never going to be enough. That's the type of society that we live in. I lived in Saudi Arabia where they literally take qaylulas. They take afternoon naps. Literally, they stop work after dhuhr. Everyone goes home and comes back to work after Asr.
It's time to relocate.
No, I'm dead serious. The environment over there is completely, I don't know about now, but I'm talking about maybe 10 years ago when I lived there. Totally different environment. Everything stops. Even, I don't know about now, but during that time, you could go to the mall after dhuhr and you might find 1 or 2 stores within the mall that's open. Everything is closed. Everybody goes home for lunch, has a qaylula, has an afternoon nap, and everything opens back up after Asr. Completely different environment. Whereas here is just hustle and bustle. You never have a moment off. You know. So some of the signs of depression is decreased energy, fatigue, difficulty sleeping, appetite and or weight changes, thoughts of death or suicide attempts, headaches, social withdrawal, which we find a lot of people when they're going through divorce, they kind of just withdraw, you know, because they're tired of answering questions as it relates to why you got divorced or why you're not married anymore. And it's sad that in the Muslim community, as I stated before, we're so intrusive. Though that's the first, are you still married? And it's just like, why is that the first? Like, are we that damaged in the Muslim community that that's literally like the first or second question someone asks you when they first meet you after not having seen you for a while? It's like, why do you even feel comfortable asking me that?
Can I say something?
Yeah, go ahead, Liz.
At Juma on Friday, I ran into a brother that oversees the masjid. And so one of the few brothers that I actually know, he's an older man. And he asked about my ex, and he didn't know we were divorced. And so I was like, yeah, we're no longer together. Alhamdulillah. And then he went into this tirade about like how he doesn't believe in divorce and how he could never think about even getting divorced himself, and that like once you get married, that should be it. He was like, this is such a heartbreak for everybody. And like, he had such an emotional response, but it was like very inappropriate because he just went into this like tirade about like how, like, it was just like, what are you doing?
Right. Why are we even having this conversation? Right. Like,
yeah.
Do I know you? Right.
But it's so interesting how, like, in the community, like, but he was like, it shouldn't be allowed. And I was like, okay.
Right.